Yak Gadget, made in America, based outside of Nashville, Tennessee. Yak Gadget offers all kinds of storage accessories, quick mount motor mounts, anchor systems, track mounted accessories, even paddles. Go to yakgadget.com and get your kayak decked out for your next trip out on the water.
The 153 Bait Company, based in Troy, Ohio, make everything from plastics to custom painted hard baits. Hook 'em hard and hook 'em often. All of our baits are made to order, and all of our hard baits are hand painted to order. So go to the153anglers.com to place your order today.
To hell and back is in the job description. Being roughed up, scuffed up, run over, kicked, thrown, dropped, dunked, and done the unthinkable is a duty we've embraced for more than 40 years. Through superior engineering and constant innovation, only Pelican has conquered the chaos a life of ambition can dish out. And we've done it to empower you.
Welcome to The Reel Down on Paddle and Fin with your hosts, Dan Perry and Jimmy Skinner, where we talk about everything tournament kayak fishing. Here we go.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to The Reel Down, live on Monday nights like usual. I am kicking it solo. I was supposed to have Mr. OG himself, Brian, with me, but I think he's asleep. They had a rough weekend running the tournament that we're going to talk about. They didn't have as much help as normal, so no hate on you, Brian. We're missing Dan this week. We're planning this show out, as most of y'all know and you hear him talk about, he's a lodge member with the Masons. He had something come up he had to attend, is what I'm supposed to say. But if any of y'all caught the show last week, he was talking about some secrets and stuff like that on here. So I'm pretty sure they just came and whacked him and he's gone. So it might just be me from now on. No, I'm just kidding. He's all good. But yeah, so like and share this up. We're glad to have everybody back. We got two guys on tonight to talk about their experiences up there on the Coldwater Chain at the Paddle and Fin Trail Series number 2. But real quick, everybody notice the new stuff? Very nice, isn't it? I lost my little podcasting spot in my trailer because I bought a new bed for my camper that I can't roll up. And so I can't get to my little table with my little wood background. Looks real nice. So I finally convinced the wife to let me convert our spare room to it's already kind of my outdoor room, but we kind of make it a spare room for family and stuff like that. But I made it my man cave without letting her know that. I didn't use those words, and she let me do all this. So still got some more stuff to add and get all my tackle up on the wall, but it looks pretty cool. So we won't waste too much more time. Oh, I see you, Chris. Yeah, I was giving Brian as much time as I could in case he wanted to jump on, but it's cool. I got it. I got plenty of stuff to talk about. But without further ado, the guys that did the business this weekend, Mr. Eric Polans and Heath Atwell. What's up, fellas?
How's it going?
What y'all up to? Everybody get back home tonight? Real safe and everything? No craziness?
Yeah. Got to spend a couple hours out on Lake Erie before I did this. I stayed close to home and figured I'd check some spots out there. So got back here ready to do this. Appreciate you.
Did you find anything out there? One of the tournaments I got to cover looks like they had a heck of a weekend out there fishing. Bunch of 90s.
I didn't catch anything really noteworthy, but I caught 8 different species of fish. And I was trying to think if there was ever a time that I've ever caught more. It was just kind of a goofy day, but it seemed to catch a little bit of everything, but nothing really to write home about. But just an interesting day, fun time out on the water. No,
that's really cool. I think the most I've done is probably 5. I don't think I've ever caught 8. That's pretty crazy.
Yeah, I had to work today.
Yeah, I probably should have worked, but I'm on business, so I kind of make my own schedule. But doing all of this, I absolutely destroyed the house because I had to take everything out of this room, move a whole bunch of big heavy furniture, and then build I had to build that whole little setup outside and then move it in here and all. Anybody that's in construction or any kind knows that shopping's probably the hardest part of it. Mm-hmm. Even if you make a detailed material list, you will forget something.
Oh yeah.
And I miscalculated 3 times doing just this. So it took way too long. So today was put the house back together day. But
looks good though.
I appreciate it. There's still a few more things I want to do. Like I can't get the screensaver setting to work. That thing's supposed to be bouncing around pictures and stuff. But like right now I'm sitting on like a little day bed in here, but I think we're gonna put like a nice couch in here or something. And then I'm gonna double this. This is probably where I play Call of Duty. It's a little small TV compared to what I'm playing Call of Duty on right now, but we'll make it work.
I don't know. You put a couch in there, you might fall asleep in the middle of the podcast.
The solid chance. There was one a few months ago where I was in the camper and I have one of those big, long, like king size pillows, and it was cold. And I like sat back and like wrapped my arms around it. And the next thing I know, like I'm staring at the camera, but I'm not listening anymore. Like I'm so glad Dan was paying attention because I was just, and then I was like, oh, I'm still here. Like, but yeah. Well, all right, guys. So this was the second stop on the Paddle and Fin trail series out there on the Coldwater Chain. And I was asking y'all about it because this is something I'm not familiar with at all. So I'm going to leave that up to you guys. Either one of y'all want to break down what the Coldwater Chain of Lakes is and kind of where and how those fisheries set up.
Take it away, Heath.
Oh, well, I mean, I've only fished it twice, but it's located south of Battle Creek, closer to is that Indiana or Illinois line? Indiana line. So Coldwater is the furthest southern lake, and then I believe there's 4 or 5 lakes attached running northward. Coldwater is the biggest one, and then there's one other good-sized lake, and the other connecting lakes are kind of smaller. So it's a great fishery. I mean, just for the 2 times that I've fished it, I've fished 2 tournaments on it. Haven't ever done any pre-fishing the only lake I've actually fished is Coldwater, but I've heard a lot of other guys talking about the other lakes in it. And there's really good fish pretty much spread throughout the entire chain. You just got to find them.
And does it have all of the species of black bass? That's the fish we're going after.
It has largemouth, smallmouth. I don't even know. Do we actually even have spotted bass or
no?
In Michigan, I didn't think we did. I mean, I've caught a few largemouth that I swear look like a spotted bass, right. Just because they get that kind of weird barred, look to them up and down their side. So I wasn't quite sure, but I can't say as though which one runs bigger in the chain of lakes, whether it's the smallmouth or the largemouth. The Coldwater seems to be the bigger fish or the smallmouth. Could be wrong, but
can't hate that.
No, not at all. Especially in an inland lake. I mean, it's right. Something's just kind of like great about catching a big smallmouth in a inland lake. I mean, you expect to catch them in a river or in the big lake connecting lakes, but the isolated inland lakes, you're used to catching largemouth all the time. That when you catch a big smallmouth, it's like, heck yeah.
It's like the exact opposite for me. Like we have smallmouth, it takes some work, and there's only so many areas you can find the big ones here. So like we get spoiled on the big largemouth, where y'all get spoiled on a lot better. To me, I feel like y'all get way better smallmouth than you do largemouth. Yeah, but that's nice. So going off of that, kind of tell us what the fishery itself is like. We got the fish. Kind of what's the layout? Grassy, rocky, deep, shallow, clear. What you got?
Well, that's what I'd say. When I showed up, it was the first time that I'd ever been there, and the first thing that stuck out to me was it was like super clear. You look on Google Earth, and it was like, okay, this is a pretty clear lake, but then you got out there, and it's like you're in 6 foot of water, and I mean, it's not even a little bit of a break from being able to see down. Like early in the morning, you're just seeing these fish cruise all the way around, like everywhere. There's this fish up in that 6 foot of water, but like you got out even in 15, 20 foot of water, you could see the bottom pretty good. Like it's super clear. So that was number one. There wasn't as much grass really as I expected. It took a little bit of work to find good grass. It was more just like sand. And then it's kind of a classic Michigan lake in a way, like almost an up north where it goes from sand 6 foot and then it hits the drop and you're down in 20. Like I never found much like mid range. It was kind of either real shallow, real deep. It was a lot of sand, not a ton of grass. The grass that was there wasn't. It was hard to find like the real like good grass that you want to fish. But I would say clear, sandy, kind of just a typical Michigan lake, honestly.
So when we fished it last, we had the Fall Classic on there last October, Eric. The Topwater had the Fall Classic. There was a ton of grass in that lake. Like the grass was, on that ledge dropping out to that 12 to 15 foot, it was like 3 feet under the water in 12 to 15 foot. And then you even got up into that 6 foot range, and you had, you had grass all the way up in about 4 foot. Then you had that nice break from 4 foot to shore where it was, a nice edge, nothing but sand. But yeah, so I think right now it was a little early in the season for it to really get blooming. I wouldn't think that they would have sprayed by now, but that's
what I was going to say. It's probably a little early, just based off y'all's like climate and stuff compared to, what we get with our grass growth down here. Yeah. What kind of grass is it? Is it hydrilla or eelgrass or?
Hydrilla is what I fish most.
Yeah.
That's kind of where I ended up once I kind of found, and it's like what he said, it was really just on that break. And then you'd have just a little bit where it would grow up right on that break. And that's really where I ended up catching most of my fish was kind of off that break on that good hydrilla.
See, mine was different. I spent my entire day up on the flat in that 4 to 6 foot range. And you had kind of those, it wasn't really grass, but it was kind of like just a sparse algae bloom with just a start of a grass, like kind of stubble. All those bass were just roaming like in sandy areas in between all that kind of darker, algae covered bottom. But I tried fishing deep that day and I couldn't catch it. I couldn't get a single bite out deep. I kept throwing chatterbait, kept throwing, deep, mid-diving crankbaits, dropping Ned rigs out off the deep side. I couldn't get a bite other than pike, so I just kind of decided to stick to the shallows. So yeah, just goes to show like different part of the lake, it'd be better in the deep end, and you go halfway up the lake, and then like the bite will be completely different, and the fish will be up on the shallow side.
You gotta love the diversity, though. That's what makes it fun. Like, yeah, you can totally whack them doing one thing, and somebody can totally whack them doing another thing. That's something that, like, when I lose my confidence, it help you keep your confidence. Like, it's working for him. Somebody's killing it, but they're nowhere near me. So maybe that's just the bite for them,
Yep.
Right.
Well, that's awesome. That's a lot to know about that fishery. That's one I was hoping to come up there. I was going to make a last minute swing, come up there and hang out and check it out, because I've only been to one, fished up north one time, and it was the Mississippi River and La Crosse, and that sandy bottom threw me for a loop. Apparently I did not do enough research. I went out there into an area I was really confident in on how I like to fish, and I it was a little bit clear, and I was looking down and seeing all these like sandy drops like you were saying, and I was like, uh-oh. I can't feel my weight in this bouncing it. I can't. Right. There wasn't any grass because it was up and rushing. Like, it was just totally different world for me. Well, that's cool though. This is gonna make for a good show. It's gonna be great to hear one of you did one thing and one of you did the other. A lot of the times when we have tournaments, sometimes everybody Gunnersville in October. Everybody caught them on a frog. So it's kind of the same story. But so let's start on the beginning half of it. Y'all get any pre-fishing in?
No
pre-fishing.
No pre-fishing at all. I gave up pre-fishing last year. I don't pre-fish any. Actually, like the start of last year, I gave up pre-fishing because I found every time it wasn't so much the fishing itself that threw me off. Like, this is my third season in, and the first season I started, I was fishing out of an Ascend 10T flat deck, kayak. And Eric, some of our bigger tournaments like Muskegon, Gold Lake, and all of that. What usually ends up happening the day of the tournament? The wind's 15 to 25 miles an hour, and where I pre-fished in that little flat deck kayak and caught fish, I couldn't get to. So then, like, it just threw me off. So I was like, okay, you know what? From now on, and I mean, even though I fish out of a Hobie now, and I can, withstand those winds, I just feel that I do better if I just study maps, go with the season, the time, and kind of go off of that feel of it rather than go out there and get a pre-notion of where I should fish and get out there the day of the tournament and not be catching the fish that I was catching pre-fish and then just be totally stumped. Right. So for myself, I just feel like I can stay a little more natural to what I'm confident in. If I just get there and come up with my game plan in the morning, get there and go fishing. And it served me pretty well last year. I mean, other than yesterday and Lake St. Clair, I've been kind of a slow start this year, but
I understand where you're coming from on that. It's something I'm starting to consider myself because, like, when I have time to prepare and I pre-fish, either I can't find nothing and I stress myself out, or you find something and then I have too much confidence.
Right.
Where neither one of those situations have served me well, but like the one tournament I did decent in this year, I just showed up and fished. Like that, I just showed up. I've been on this body of water one time. We were at a completely different launch. I'd never seen anything. We just had a good day and it went all right. I didn't get anywhere close to a check, but I, caught a limit. That's goal one. Well, goal one, catch a fish. Goal two, catch a limit, and then go from there. So.
Right.
Yeah.
What I will say about this Coldwater tournament is what kind of gave me my notion of what I was going to do and where I was going to fish was, like I mentioned a little bit ago, we had our fall classic on Coldwater last October. Well, it was the first time I'd ever fished the lake, and I chose to fish Coldwater instead of the rest of them. And I just happened to tie on the right bait and ended up winning the tournament last October.
Nice.
So that was kind of one of the main reasons why I signed up for this one, because my schedule is pretty full this year. And I was like, you know what? It'd be pretty cool to do a two-peat on the same lake. So I was I'm going to sign up for this one and see what I can do. So I just ultimately decided that I was going to fish the same area that I did last October. Why would you? And just, pay attention to what the weather was and then switch my tactic, accordingly. So last October, I threw a jerkbait the entire day, a solid white jerkbait, and got like 94 inches off that lake.
Jesus.
And so I was like, okay, well, that morning the wind was 0 mile an hour. Like, well, the water's a little warmer. There's no wind. So I'm just going to go with a solid white walking bait. And sure enough, by like 9:30, 10 o'clock in the morning, I already had like 74, 75 inches. I think it was leading for a little while until Alex and then finally Eric kind of, caught up. But so that was kind of my approach to the whole day.
Can't hate a walking bait bite. That's probably one of my favorite things.
Oh man, especially like early season like this, like when it's your first like good day of like getting topwater bites, it's just kind of gets that blood going and, gets your kind of adrenaline kicking. And especially when I have 18 and a half inch smallmouth and then a 17 and I think quarter or 17 and a half, maybe, kind of within 5 minutes of each other. Heck, I was thinking I was going to have another 90 something inch day until all of a sudden I caught another 30, 40, 12 to 13 inches.
Yeah. That walking bait, it's a late year bait for me. Like probably like the heat of the summer going into the end of the year is when I started throwing it. But me too, man. It's like I've caught my biggest smallmouth. I caught a 19 3/4 on it. And that was probably like the confidence sealer. Right. I'd caught tons of spots, and because I like going out to like Gunnersville and look for the schools of fish blowing up on the surface and just throw that thing in the middle of it and catch just all those stripe and everything that's out there running. But I love that thing. Well, before we get to Eric's lack of pre-fishing, Chris Marks had a question about the algae blooms. Do you feel the algae bloom robs oxygen and makes it where the fish aren't there?
I can't say as though maybe sometimes I don't think it doesn't seem to affect the smaller fish.
Right.
Because like the flat, I wouldn't say 100% was algae bloomed over, but I mean, there was those little like those algae bulbs or whatever you call them, like just scattered like everywhere on the bottom. And I mean, there was the bluegill, there was crappie, there was like small, like 2-inch, 2-inch big bluegill kind of swimming everywhere, and there was males all over that flat. But I didn't really see a whole lot of anything that was over 16, maybe 15 to 16. So maybe it might kind of push the bigger fish out, but because where I caught the 2 smallmouth at was straight up sand and gravel.
Yeah.
So
you, Eric, you got any input
about the algae?
Yeah.
General rule of thumb: if I'm fishing around a bunch of algae, I'm probably going to leave. For nothing else. Like, I can't speak to the biology of it. I don't know that I'm that smart to give a real good answer, but I can tell you that for me, when I'm trying to fish and I'm getting stuck on algae every other cast, I just get frustrated having to deal with it. So I'm trying to leave and find something else because if nothing else, like in my head, that's just not what I'm trying to do. But I think it's more of the frustration of actually just getting algae all over every bait that you're trying to throw. I can't really speak to the biology of it, but
that's me. I definitely think I think Heath hit it pretty good just from like experience. I always think there's fish in the area. I mean, obviously there's other factors, but I definitely think that it does not maybe take the oxygen levels down too much, but it probably does make it harder for them to efficiently absorb oxygen. Which is why I think bigger fish, I don't tend to see them in the heavy algae as much, is because the bigger fish already need more oxygen, and they're bigger. It's more energy, more stress. And I could be completely wrong. It's just something that I've kind of seen and think. But I'm right there with you, Eric. Usually, if I roll up into a spot, I make a cast, and it comes back covered in algae, I'm out. Like I will immediately make a run, 50 yards, check, and I will do that until I get away from that algae.
and sometimes the edge of the algae, like sometimes they'll be there, and sometimes that'll be the deal. Like if you can find one spot that just doesn't have algae in a whole field of everything else that does have algae, that'll be the spot where they're all eating. Just from my own experience, though, I've never caught them good enough when there's all that algae around for me to want to stick around.
Yeah, I definitely can agree with you there. For me, it's finding when that kind of ends. Usually, if it's like a big shoreline of it, and you find that little rock crop or where the grass line comes in or something that filters that out, that's where I start to find the fish. So I feel you on that. Well, so back to you again, Eric. So you didn't get any pre-fishing in there, right?
No, and it's funny that hearing he say that, and him and I had never really talked about it before, but I kind of have the same approach. I feel like a lot of times when I go and pre-fish, like I feel like one of two things happens. Like either one, I'm sticking the fish that I probably want to catch on tournament day, or two, I'll get locked into something and then it changes. So here I am fishing yesterday's or 2 days ago or last week's fish. I'm not fishing today's. I feel like, 8 hours is a lot of time. And maybe you're not going to find the 5 best fish, but I feel like in 8 hours, if I stick with what I'm doing, I'll be able to come across 5 that are hungry.
Oh yeah.
So that's just kind of where I'm at there. So I, like him, I do a lot more map study and just try to find what you can online and filter out what's good, what's not good. Like for this particular one, I found a write-up on Coldwater Chain that said, there's a couple areas that's where the largemouth are caught. And I thought, cool, I guess I'll go there and just kind of chuck around and see what happens. The other thing that kind of goes along with that, like I like fishing shallow. If I had it my way, I would stay probably 6 foot or less grass, and just kind of go to town. And a lot of times when it's shallow, you're not necessarily fishing for a big giant group of fish. It's just kind of one here, and just cover a bunch of water and put some bites together. And then if you do catch, get a good area where they're really loaded up, then that's just a bonus. So for me, like that's just kind of what I'm going to go do. So whether I pre-fish it or don't pre-fish it, that's kind of what I'm going to try to lock into. I mean, obviously you got to pay attention to what's in front of your face, and it's not always going to work out that way, but that's always going to kind of be my starting point, whether I pre-fish or not. And then I'm just going to cover as much water as I can and try to kind of find those bites. And my day was almost the exact opposite of him, and just talking about the numbers and everything else. I think I was about 5 hours into the tournament and I had 4 fish. So I'm kind of stuck trying to get number 5. I was rolling around in my head like, I'm not really sure what I need to be doing that I'm not doing, but I know what I'm doing is not really working right now. But it was about that time that the wind really started picking up. And I think that was the biggest thing for me. I came around, I was kind of fishing back to where I was, and there's a point that sticks out. And I found it because I tried to cross over earlier and I completely beached my kayak, which there was a guy fishing pretty close. He thought that was pretty funny. So I'm sitting there and I'm like, I'm stuck good. So I got my oar out and I'm like, I'm trying hard. I'm rocking to get it off of that. So when I came back to it, I thought, man, that wind is blowing hard, and it was blowing hard right on it. So I thought, maybe there's some fish kind of pulled up into that. And once I got back to that spot, I caught it 18.5, which was the second biggest of the tournament. So I was pretty pumped up about that. I'm thinking, okay, I might have something going now. That was my 5th fish. And then I got to the end of it, and I kind of circled back around. I was going to go, and here comes this aluminum boat and parks about a half a cast in front of me and starts fishing right down it. And they keep looking back at me like wanting to know why I'm so close, like one of those type of things. And I just kind of got a chuckle out of it. I'm like, all right, well, so I'm just going to go. Like, I'm not going to make this a big thing. But I got around to the other part, and it was super shallow. It was only like 6 inches of water, but that wind was kind of blowing over top of it. So I got around to the other side, and where that wind was blowing over top of it, I caught a 17.5 right there. And then basically within an hour and a half, I caught a 18.5, 17.5, and then I caught a 18.75 just like in a short stretch in about an hour and a half.
Wow, you can't hate on that. It's a great feeling when especially when it's been a long day and it just kind of like you get that like magic hour where it just falls together. Mm-hmm. It doesn't happen to me too often, but it sounds nice.
Hey, I can hate on it a little bit because before he caught those 3, I was beating him by a quarter inch with an hour and a half left.
Well, it was starting to come down to the end, and I caught the 18.5, and then I caught the 17.5, and that was the first time that I had checked the leaderboard.
Right.
I don't like to watch leaderboard when I'm fishing. I just figure if I put up my 5 best, I'll figure out where I finish. Like I'm not too worried about it. Because sometimes you finish good, sometimes you don't. So I'm sitting here watching, and if I see that Heath has 97 inches, like that's going to do me no good. That's not going to make my fishing better. I'm going to sit here scratching my head wanting to know how does Heath have 97 or whatever.
Right.
But I looked at it and I thought, okay, like there's a couple guys right here at 80. I don't know if I know that I was towards the top. I don't know that I was winning or not. And then it wasn't that much longer that I caught that 3rd big one. What's funny is that I'll go back and I kind of check my time stamps. I'll go back and look at other tournaments that I fished, but the last tournament that I had won, the time frame, like if you overlapped them, the same hour and a half period, I caught 3 big fish in each of those tournaments from about 11 o'clock to 12:30. And it's weird how that happens sometimes. And like if you go back through and really dig into the consistency of your numbers and when the bite happens, when it doesn't happen, sometimes it's really weird kind of how aligned it really gets. And those were multiple states away, probably 800 miles away, the 2 lakes, fishing nothing alike, but then just the timetables, it seemed like the big bites just snapped on for the same period, same time, everything. It's kind of strange to look back to. And I'm a math teacher, so I'm kind of into the numbers end of it and just like looking at that type of stuff, and it just blows my mind. I don't know if it means much, but
I'm glad I'm not, because I would use all sorts of ratios and stuff against me. Like, well, I've got a 1 in 738,000th chance of making this happen.
Well, and that's why I don't check the leaderboard anymore, because I'd look at it and I'd be like, all right,
I'm out.
I'm 3 inches behind and my small fish is this, so I could either catch one that's 19 inches, but if I don't catch one that's 19, I catch one that's 17 and a half, and I'll go through all these scenarios and add up all these different numbers and stuff. And then by the next time you post a fish, you look back at the leaderboard, and
changed.
3 people had upgraded, so not all that math and all that.
All that math didn't mean nothing.
I understand. I do my best. Like, I try not to look at the leaderboard until like mid-morning or midday, just depending on like what kind of day it is.
Yeah.
I definitely, even when I'm catching them, I don't like to know. Like, a lot of guys, they'll be like, "Oh, I got me good 5. I'm gonna throw these up and I'm gonna look at them." And I don't like sandbag or nothing, but I'll post them, but I will not look. I just don't want to know. Like, I would rather them text me after the tournament and be like, "Hey, you need to be here for sure. You won." Be like, "Oh, okay, cool."
Right.
I don't need to know, which is not going to happen. I'm the worst tournament fisherman. I've got one other buddy that's, I would arguably say he's not worse, but he has more bad luck for tournament fishing. I don't know if y'all would know him, but Steve Owens. He runs some of the Tennessee clubs down here. He held a lot of the Bassmaster stuff. He helped start all that with the Kayak series. And he's kind of known, it's just a joke, that man loses more giant fish and has a better, like the pre-fishing day of the tournament, he will absolutely wreck them. Now, he still finishes good. You know, he's got a bunch of nice, checks and stuff in his fishing career, but he always will tell you about the one that got away and have someone right beside him that was watching it. It was like, "Oh, yeah, he had a 9 break off at the boat, Oh, he caught 3/8 yesterday in practice." Like, just, which goes back to the pre-fishing thing. Like you said, you don't want to hook the fish you need.
Yeah.
Right. And when it's not really going to affect how I'm going to fish that day, like, but there's other times too where I have pre-fished and I found one area and I just sat there all day and it does work. But I'm more worried about that. Like, you don't want to be the guy that won pre-fishing.
That's definitely how it is for him, I feel like.
Pre-fishing and you come out and you drop 82 for the tournament and finish mid-pack, and it's just like,
Or you rage quit like I do. I have a problem with that.
The rage quit.
I'm still upset with myself for how I handled Texas, but that was just a series of bad days that just ended in a freaking fireball. But whatever, we're not going to get into that. So Eric, you're Big Fish 1 Big Fish, correct? You're 1875.
Yeah. So I had 1875, and then the 18.5 I think was the second biggest of the tournament also. So I got, in some ways, got lucky, like the wind came up, and like it was about the time that I noticed that the wind came up. Like I looked, I was like, "Oh wow, there's wind." But it was about that time that just like, and then I look up and I saw that and I thought that is exactly what I'd want to be fishing with the wind. So it just, and then it was there, so it's nice when it starts to kind of come together like that, and you can look at it and you're like, sweet, this is where I want to be. But what's funny about the big bass is I had a buddy that was out there and he was going to come fish by me. He told me the day before. I told him where I was going to be at, and he had just met up with me, and I'm kind of casting around, and I just looked back and I said, "Hey," and stuff. And we're, shooting the breeze for maybe a minute or two. And then I hooked that big fish. So we're in the middle of the conversation and I'm reeling it in, I'm fighting it. And then I get it in the net and I threw it in the bottom of the boat. And I looked up and I said, I think I might have a real shot to win this now. He goes, "Well, what do you mean?" And I hold it up out of the net. He goes, "You just caught that?" He didn't even realize that I had a fish on the whole time. I'm super dialed in. It was kind of funny how it all worked out. But
I would have had that opposite approach. I'd have just let it in the bottom of the boat and be like, "Nah, fishing sucks here, man. You can keep going. I wouldn't fish here. It's terrible."
Well, he didn't realize that Paddle and Fin was handing out the identifiers at the boat ramps. Mm-hmm. So he had missed his opportunity to get the identifier. So he paid for the tournament, but he had kind of missed the boat, and it's user error. It's just stuff happens. I guess you learn better for next time. But he wasn't at that point. He was just kind of floating around. He's like, "Well, do you mind if I just kind of hang close to you, watch you fish? I'd kind of like to see what you got going on. I see you're up there in the leaderboard. Do you mind if I just watch?" And I don't care, dude. Do whatever you want. You can fish too. Just stay behind me. And if you catch a 20, I might come out and flip your kayak. But other than that, I don't mind if you want to watch.
I can't. I had a little episode like that. We had one of the Alabama Bass Nation events, which I host down here. We had real low participation, which, you know, it was thrown together at the last minute, and, you know, there's other stuff going on. But I had a buddy go with me that didn't pay, that fished in front of me and completely whacked him all day. And I rode the struggle bus, and I almost drowned him, you know.
That's and it was funny because the whole time in my head I'm thinking, my man's gonna catch a giant. Like it's just gonna happen. He's gonna catch the one that I need fishing close, but you know, it is what it is. He's a good guy. He's a buddy of mine, so I didn't mind too much. But I was really hoping that he didn't steal the one I needed.
Oh yeah, I mean, did I miss out on a check? Probably. Do I care? Not really. It's not a big deal. You know, he had a killer day on the water. I got to take some pictures of it. I mean, I caught fish too, and skinny water smallmouth fishing. You know, it's always fun when you're catching them. So,
and had I realized that was going to be the big fish again, it goes back to not looking at the board. Like I had no idea that was going to be big fish. And when they announced at the announcements at the award ceremony, I thought, wow, you know, okay, I might have a good chance of winning it then, because I knew that I had one that was real close to the same size.
Right.
But had I known that, he was sitting right there, he could have taken a picture of it. I'm like, hey, sweet, 1875, and I just threw it back. You know, we weren't thinking pictures or anything. And then after the fact, it was like, yeah, okay, that probably would have been a good picture to have. But
yeah, I'm real bad about that. I love taking pictures of everything going on, but when it comes to like the stuff for me, I really like zone out and forget. I don't like, I'll catch big fish and I'll take like the basic, you know, grip and grin. So, I mean, and I don't even do that all the time. And then I realize it and like, oh, there was a golden opportunity I forgot about. But
right.
Well, I didn't go over the numbers, you know, so sorry for that. So here, let me hit that real quick. So Eric, obviously, you won with 86, anchored with that 18 3/4, and like you said, you had an 18.5 and a 17.5 right behind it. Heath, you were second place. You had an 18 1/4, so you had a really good fish too, man. You had an 81.5. And then third place was Alex Roberts with 80 inches. So pretty tight, you know, second and third place. Eric kind of stretched out on him a little bit, you know.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, all three of us were like within, I don't know, a half inch of each other, an inch for probably about 2-3 hours, 4 hours maybe, right that day. And then
that was probably the last time I checked the leaderboard probably 10 or 11 a.m. and that's what I saw. I saw y'all. I think you were leading when I looked. I think Eric was just then like starting to come up on y'all or something.
I know I didn't have a limit at that point. I still probably only had maybe 3 fish at 10.
No, I think it was about 11:30 or so, 11 maybe, that you and Alex both passed me. And you guys were tied with like 80 inches even. And then I think you upgraded one more, and then I turned around and upgraded like 3 fish that put me like a 1/4 inch over you. Then like 15, 20 minutes later, the standings shut off. So then
that's
I was
when the real stressor starts.
For like the next hour and a half, like, oh my God, Eric, don't upgrade. Crap, he upgraded.
That's when people first started turning the leaderboard off. That's when it started to get interesting.
Yeah. To me though, like, I guess I love the excitement of like knowing that closeness, because one, it kind of drives me to focus harder on my fishing. But that to me, that's exciting. Like knowing that me, Eric, and Alex were all three like kind of neck and neck.
Oh, yeah.
4 hours that day. Even though I was like kind of like, I jumped out pretty quick ahead of everybody. But I was glad to see like 2 other guys like just kind of get right up in there in the mix and make it a competition. You know, like,
oh yeah.
Like that was just exciting to me. Like I had a blast with it, like just grinding. Like after, like Eric said, when the wind picked up, so the topwater bite died off at about 9:30, I think. As soon as that sun really kind of broke up high. So then I struggled for like 2 hours trying to figure something out. And I had one rod on my kayak that wasn't rigged up, and it was my Ned rig rod. And I was like, okay, you know what? I think it's time that I finally tie a damn Ned rig on my freaking rod. So I tied a Ned rig on. And then that wind started blowing. And I got up there on top of the flat and I just started chucking that Ned rig up in like 4 to 6 foot of water. And literally every single cast, I was catching a 12-inch or a 13-inch or a 14-inch or a 13 3/4, a 12 3/4. So I spent that next 4 hours grinding through about 40 different fish, trying to upgrade another 2 inches.
Which is still fun too, man. When you're digging, trying to upgrade, and the fish you're on them. I mean, you're not on any size, but it's fun. Like, all right, what's this one? No, what's this one? There's a 1/4 inch.
I actually hooked up into one that probably pushed 16 and a half that jumped off. So that would have upgraded me probably 2 inches. And then I jumped off another one that might have been about 15 to 16. So I could have potentially got maybe another 3 inches out of it. But yeah, I mean, my freaking arm was wore out by just out of that 3 hours. Like, you know.
Oh yeah.
I mean, just constantly, like, just setting that hook on that Ned rig, and I was like, "Oh my Lord!"
What's your we like to, when we hear about what bait was working for somebody, without giving away any secret or anything, like, what's your go-to setup for Ned rigs?
Mine, what is that? I mean, I'll tell you exactly what it is. It's that. So I use like a 3/32. What's the one under the 1/4 ounce? Like, I don't go super light with my Ned rigs. I don't really see the reason to it, especially when you're trying to like kind of do a combo of fishing from like 6 foot out to like 15 foot. So I kind of just stay with that heavier size. What's that? What's that? That Z-Man Tickler Z or Ticklers? The one that's got the 4 little freaking tentacles on the end of it.
Hula stick?
No, is it the hula stick?
It might be. I'm not too familiar. Brad, if you're still watching this, you're a Z-Man guy. I saw your comment. Which one is it? You're a Z-Man dude.
I mean, honestly, I've had, like, I don't throw a Ned rig a ton. Like, it's always kind of a last resort to me. Like, I'm not a true finesse fisherman. Like, I love, like, moving baits, like heavier things, top water, cranks. Like, chatterbait and, like, Texas are probably my 2 biggest confidence baits I got. But I do seem to do a lot better throwing that little bait than I do a lot of the other Ned rigs.
Yeah.
And
I'm with you. Ned rig's the craze, but it's not my thing. Like, I don't give it enough time. I hate throwing it.
That little kind of like ding, 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 ding. Like, that just kind of annoys the crap out of me sitting there doing that for hours.
Like, I've got the patience for, like, I love throwing a drop shot.
Yeah.
And I love throwing Texas rigs. And I will work a Texas rig deadly slow, but for some reason I cannot stand working a Ned rig. I just don't. Some guys will go out there and they will cash big checks on it and they will run the old Ned, deadly Nedley all day. And I don't care. I'm not going to do it. If that's what it took to win that tournament, I was out from the beginning because I wasn't going to throw it.
Yeah.
Period. Wasn't happening.
I can relate to that.
Yeah. I do feel like I need to keep it as an open option more than what I do, because I'm kind of like a, willing to die by the sword kind of guy. Like, sometimes I get myself caught up in, well, I've done so well on the chatterbait that I'm just going to keep freaking whipping that chatterbait.
Oh, yeah.
And I'll switch it to freaking 5 different colors and go back to the first color and put a different trailer on it. And then still not catch nothing. So, yeah, I feel like every year, though, I do try to pick up a new or try to gain more confidence in a new tactic. With it being my 3rd year in, I'm still kind of like low on the pole as far as what I've gained confidence in. Chatterbaits and Texas rigs like served me very, very well last year. I think I placed top 10 in over 50% of the tournaments I fished.
Nice.
This year so far, starting out, it's not it's not serving me as well. So, I think that, it's but I definitely need to just keep growing and diversifying and just kind of, branching off and gaining confidence in other baits along the way too.
100%, man. That's the most fun thing about this for a lot of people, especially me, is the learning. Like, I know some guys that are just stuck in their ways and they works for them and that's fine. But
Yeah.
I like to, every time I hear about at an event I was in, or even it's even worse now that I do the podcast, hearing every week about a guy winning. Anytime it's on something I have no confidence in, it just kind of like strikes the fire to like, okay, I need to learn how to do this. But it's terrible for my pocketbook.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
this isn't even a quarter of what I got to figure out how to put up here, and I'm already running out of room. And because it's them and YouTube, and before you know it, there goes that money.
YouTube is my worst enemy right now.
I like
YouTube is my wife's worst enemy right now.
Yes. I it was kind of crazy. I was a big YouTube guy until I started doing the podcast. Same with podcasts. I used to listen, and when I started doing them, I kind of like backed away from YouTube, backed away from, not for any real reason. It just kind of happened.
Yeah.
But it's not watching tactical bass videos has helped me so much. And those guys moved within 2 hours of where I live. And now their videos are even more relevant since it's not a California lake. It's kind of water. So I can't watch them no more because I've got so much crap. Like, I gave away a box the other day that was big plastic moving tote. It was about half full of plastics and baits I'd never opened that I would never use. And I was going to sell them. And then I was just like, I got a better idea. My buddy was coming by to pick up something, and I was like, go through it. And he's like, well, can I just have all of it? And I was like, get it away from me.
Those are the guys that I first started watching last year or 2 years ago.
Killer show. If for anybody that listens to this, if you are, starting out and looking for a good channel, I will definitely say they're probably one of the most thorough YouTube channels.
Oh, yeah.
Check out Tactical Bass and you will learn something.
Yeah, especially just understanding the difference of setups and baits.
Yeah. And they have underwater footage, and then they'll talk you. My favorite thing is them talking me through it while they do it catching fish.
Yeah.
Not a lot of guys can do that. And they'll be like, we're going to do a whole video on working this swim bait. And then he will film doing it and figuring out a pattern. I mean, and how and why. It's great. So definitely highly recommended it.
Yeah.
Well, Eric, real quick, I'll give you a chance. Your productive bait that for the tournament last weekend, what's your go-to setup for everything?
So, I threw a chatterbait for 8 hours, and that's what I like to do. There was one time where when I saw him swimming around, because there's no wind, and I saw him kind of cruising. I was trying to throw a wacky rig just kind of out and lead him a little bit, and I wasn't catching anything. At one point, I picked up a Texas rig, and I threw it about 3 casts, got bit off by a pike, and I threw a chatterbait for 8 hours, and that's.
So with that relatively clear water, what's you don't have to give the exact color if you don't want to, but like, what are you?
Green pumpkin.
Okay.
So. And I own 2 colors. I do own one that has a little bit of chartreuse in it. That's it. And the guys that I fish with a lot, they kind of know the deal. And for a while they'd say, hey, what were you catching them on? They don't. Most of them don't bother to ask now because they already kind of know that's just.
So when they start fishing with you start noticing they've got it tied on too.
What's that?
It's to the point now that when they fish with you, you notice that they have the same thing tied on too.
Oh, for sure. And there's been times where I'll reach down, I'll get one, and I'll fasten it up just the way I have, and I'll give it to them. There's no secret really about it. It's green pumpkin trailer. I usually dip the tail in a little chartreuse. I don't know if it makes a difference, but in my head, that's just kind of what I like to do.
It works, and you got confidence in it, man. That's the deal.
Whether it's Alabama or Tennessee or Florida or anywhere that I've gone, they seem to really like it. And there's other stuff that I'm good at that I like to do. It kind of goes back to what you guys were saying, just knowing how to do stuff. Like my switch up when I don't want to go throw a chatterbait is I go smallmouth fishing. But when I'm largemouth fishing, that's going to be probably 95% of what I'm doing.
Are you throwing the jackhammer or original or?
It's I honest to God, I don't know what the series is called, but it's not the jackhammer and it's not the original. It's somewhere between. They only sell it on Tackle Warehouse, and I don't know that it's the best one. I don't know if it's better than the jackhammer, but I bought a handful of jackhammers one time to try out, and I lost all of them in the morning to pike. And I said, I'm not spending $16 a piece on these to lose them all to pike.
Yeah,
I can buy one for $8 that'll work. And
hey, first cast that morning, Eric, I lost a brand spanking new one that I bought just the day before first cast.
I did the same thing last year. I'm pretty good about not losing them. Now, obviously, we don't have pike, or I mean, something bites your line off here, maybe probably a gar, basically the same thing. But it's definitely a bait. When I pop one off, I go after it because, like you were saying, I'm typically a shallow water guy, and $16 to $20, especially like when you go get one at the gas station on your way to the ramp that morning, you ain't getting it for $16.
No,
I've paid $22 for one, and I'm not proud to admit that, but they had the color I needed and the size, so I'm excited. I don't know if you've given them a chance yet. They got that new crawl size out.
You know, I don't remember who it was, but there was somebody who was telling me about them and said that they really liked them. I hadn't tried it yet.
It's very similar to a jackhammer. It's a Z-Man. A few subtle differences, but for the most part, it kind of works the same. But they talk about, we had a great episode with, I think it's Glenn Young from the Z-Man on the final cast. And he was talking about, like, if you're throwing the jackhammer and you're having hookup issues, to pop on the cross size. And it's only $10. So might be worth taking a look at.
Does that one come in kind of like a puffed out plastic container? Like not like a regular, like soft plastic with cardboard. Like it's kind of like a wide. Like
no, the cross size comes in the same packaging, just like a jackhammer does. It's got the cardboard stapled over the little plastic bag.
See, I got to look because there's a store here in Grand Rapids that I went into that I found out that actually have jackhammers and like pretty much the entire line of Z-Man chatterbaits. Well, I seen a new one on the shelf that I've never seen before that came in kind of like a hard plastic, puffed out package. And for the life of me, I can't remember the model name was, but it was cheaper than a jackhammer, but I've never seen it before.
I wonder if that's the new Willow vibe that they have.
Maybe that's what it, maybe that does kind of ring a bell.
We have a tackle shop. Right. We have a tackle shop down here that has basically everything, and they don't have the Willow vibes yet, so I don't know what their packaging looked like. So there's a solid chance that's what it was. Because to my knowledge, they are very new.
Yeah, I mean,
and I hear good things. It's supposed to be like a good finesse option for chatterbait fishermen.
I think it says something about it being a finesse type or something.
It's supposed to be smaller hook, smaller profile, stuff like that. But
maybe weedless.
I think so. And I know they were talking about, because Brad that runs that show, he's a big smallmouth guy, and he was talking about how this smaller setup should make it more appealing for smallmouth fishing. So I got to pick some of those up.
I mean, they had great color patterns to them.
Oh yeah,
a little different.
That's probably the thing that gets me with chatterbaits more than anything is the colors. I like looking at them all in the box. I'm like, ooh, this one looks good with the gold blade, and this one looks good with the black blade, and this one looks good with the red. I got $200 or $300 in jackhammers over there that colors I've never thrown. No, because I'm like you, when I go out there, black and blue, green pumpkin, and spot remover is like my favorite, like clear water.
Remover, I love the spot remover.
That's my color.
Yeah.
I've had the most luck on white and chartreuse, and I don't have one anymore. I just like try to make a shove spot remover down their throat,
I threw the white and chartreuse with kind of a the white solid bottom with like the translucent swim bait tail on it. Never got a hit on it. One bite. I did pick up and tie on the solid green pumpkin one that I had a twin tail curly rub tail on it. Threw that for about maybe 30 minutes. Never got a hit. So I was like, okay, well, that ain't going to be it. Then I just kind of gave up on the chatterbait. Which is
just like we talked about at the beginning.
Like I normally throw the chatterbait for 8 hours. Like I love throwing that thing.
Just like we talked about at the beginning, though, it's crazy how, you're doing one thing on one end of the lake, and then he's doing one thing on the other end of the lake, and it just works for each of you how it should. Oh, wrong one. Boom.
Jeff Morrow, my guy.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah. See, your boy's not taking the jackhammers and chatterbaits down to the salt, Chris. That's just a guaranteed me losing way more money than I'm going to get back in fishing, so it's not happening. Well, one last thing to touch on, since it's kind of new. How did y'all like the Paddle and Fin Trail Series? How'd it go?
It was good. It was a little bit different for me with the I'd never fished a tournament with just like the board checks and the identifiers, and I was kind of curious to see how that was going to work out, because I live 2 hours away from Coldwater, so to get out of work, drive all the way out there, drive back home, and then have to wake up super early and do it. So I was happy that they were able to work with me and just come to the ramp. But it was super smooth, super easy, and then I thought the award ceremony went well. The Complete Fisherman, I know, donated a bunch of sweet giveaways, and the awards were all real nice. I thought that it was really good production for everybody involved, and just everything that went into it. I thought that it was a really good series, really good event.
I'm glad to hear it, man. I know they're trying really hard, man. I know the identifiers has been kind of hard with, we got a lot more leniency down here with having in-person stuff now, but they're making it work. I know it's a little difficult to get the identifiers to people in some of this stuff, but the first year they'll work all those cobwebs out. What about you, Heath? How do you think it went?
I thought it went great. Same with Eric. It was definitely a different thing. We're not used to having measuring boards checked and actual ID cards handed to us that are all illuminated and looking all professional and everything. We kind of print our own out, and but everything went great. One thing I thought was really cool is just us being up here in Michigan. We're so far north. It seems like for us to get a chance to really fish with people from other states, we always have to travel south to really do it most of the time. So it was cool to have a different trail come up into Michigan.
And not on Lake St. Clair.
Yeah. Give us a chance to actually, meet guys from other states and fish with them and conversate and stuff like that.
And still kind of have a competitive advantage. It's your water.
Yeah. But all in all, in the same, like Eric said, the award ceremony went great. Everybody was, friendly. It was professionally done. The awards were great. The giveaways, that was all first class. So
awesome, man. I know everybody's glad to hear it, and we're definitely glad y'all enjoyed yourself. Their whole thing is making it for the anglers. So sounds like they're doing a good job.
Yeah, you guys are doing a great job. Keep it up.
Shout out to Susie and Brian and Jay and Matt and all those guys that did it.
I look forward to traveling to what tournament is that we're invited to now that we played?
The championship
at La Crosse, yeah.
Yeah, hopefully
I will be there for that. I've got to go back and gain back all the confidence I lost in La Crosse.
and where is that one at? La Crosse? Where's that?
La Crosse, Wisconsin, Mississippi.
Mississippi River, probably pool 7, 8, 9. They may just do one pool.
Probably about somewhere 7, 8 hours for you, Heath.
Yeah.
It's worth it. That town.
Yeah.
Amazing food.
Is it?
Super. Everybody there is super nice. It's kind of like, the town's kind of built around La Crosse is known for the fishing in the area, a lot of crappie boats and bluegill fishing and stuff like that. Definitely make it if you can, though. And I'm sure, Brian and the guys are doing a lot for these trail events. I'm sure they're going to go all freaking out for the championship. So you definitely don't want to miss it, especially since you qualified. So that's awesome.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, definitely.
Well, guys, we are right here at the end of our time. We try to keep it around an hour. I know everybody's tired on Monday nights. We'd like to give you all a time to shout out any of your sponsors or whoever makes fishing easier for you. So, Heath, take it away.
Pretty much the only person I want to shout out to is Minnows Bait Company, Custom Lures. Nate Chandler owns that. Does an amazing job. Doing custom paint jobs on hard baits, walking baits, jerk baits, crank baits, lipless, walleye baits. Uses top-notch gear on them and stuff. So if anybody's ever looking for a good custom bait at a good price, look them up. Minnows Bait Company.
Very nice. And you go shout out to your wife for setting up all the electronics and tech stuff.
Shout out to my wife that's now in bed sleeping because it's so late. But
All right, man. Well, congrats, and I appreciate it. What about you, Eric?
I'm thankful for the same thing I said last time. I don't have any sponsors or anything like that. Not really a priority of mine. Maybe one day the right opportunity come around and we'll figure something out. But for me, it's just my brothers, my family, my dad, just my one brother in particular. We grew up fishing together. We kind of got into this thing, not kayak fishing, but just fishing a little bit of tournaments and stuff. And I always give him a call and kind of roll some things off of his brain. And he gives me a hard time if I don't do all that good. And, it's just, it's fun. It keeps it light. It's nice to have somebody who understands fishing to kind of bounce some ideas off of and just roll back and forth. So I always appreciate that. Of course, my dad is the president of my fan club. And I'm sure that he's going to pass along this link to everybody that he knows at least once and make sure that they get a chance to see it. So
no, that's great. And if he has trouble with it, you just message me. I'll send you the link.
Yeah. So hey, look, I'm having a whole bunch of fun. I fish to have fun. I'm not worried about the sponsor part of it. I'm not worried about anything else. If ever I stopped having so much fun doing this, I'd just quit doing it. I said it last time I was on. I'll say it again. I'd fish one every single day if I could, and that's the truth. I'm having a ball. I'm fortunate to where I've done well in a couple tournaments, and I appreciate you having me on again. I wish Daniel could have been here. I was really hoping to hear about his tournament down there on Lay Lake, but I appreciate you having me on. I just keep my fingers crossed. Maybe I can do it one more time, and thanks.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you guys having me on, I appreciate you guys letting me have y'all on, and I'm sure I'll see y'all again. It sounds like Heath's got a streak going on up there as well, and Eric, you're doing killer this year, so I'll be glad to have y'all back on the show, and if y'all need anything, let me know, but thank you, fellas.
Pleasure meeting you, and appreciate it. Thank you. See you, Eric. All
right. Couple of great guys there. Super cool to hear that everybody's enjoying the trail series that Paddle and Fin's got going on. So like always, we're going to get into tournament recap, and there is a lot of it. So just stick it out with me. It'll be worth it. So we will start. Let's see. I got them all pulled up, but there's so many of them. They've all clashed together. All right. Starting with Iowa Kayak Anglers. They were in the Okoboji area, and a couple of lakes. West Okoboji, East, Big Spirit, Upper and Lower Gar, and Minnewashta. 40 anglers. Josiah Meter took that one with 90.5. Second place, Corey Sherman with 87. Third place, Joe Bailey with 87. Lost to the tiebreaker. Corey took it with a 19 1/4 over an 18 1/4. Next up, Queen City Kayak Anglers. Their sixth event on Lake Hartwell. They had 158 anglers. They was partnered with the Hobie event. I think I may have just told you wrong. Nope, I was right. So, 158 anglers. They do the 4-fish stringer, which is awesome because nobody else is doing it. Mr. Ling Vang, first place, 75 1/4. Ewing Minor, second place with 74 1/2. Third place, Brian Nelly with 72. Congrats to those guys. And again, in conjunction with that was the Hobie BOS 2-day event on Lake Hartwell. Ewing Minor won that one with 174 3/4. So we got a first in this one and second in the other. Chris Grant, second place, 168 3/4. And Matt Hodge with third with 165 1/2 for the 2 days. So congrats to those guys. All right, moving on. West Virginia Kayak Anglers were on their Summersville event. They had, 92 anglers, 5-fish limit. Philip Backus won that with 76 and a quarter. Mark Edwards second with 73. Blaine Winters third with 70 and a half. Moving on from there, we have the Pennsylvania Bass Nation event. So let's see what they had. They had 31 anglers. First place went to Stephen Frank with 97 and a half. Second place to Adam Nickel with 96. Third place to Chad Foster with 95 and a half. And they were up there on Erie. So they did, those 90-inch stringers, that's killer. And when I was taking a look at them, it was, I wish I could share this picture, but some giant smallmouth. I would share that picture, but I would end up crashing this stream trying to figure that out on the fly. So moving on from there, we had the Buckeye Kayak Fishing Trail. They were on Mosquito Creek Lake. 59 anglers. Sean Skidmore first with 82nd and 3/4. Robert Weicker, second place, 78 and a quarter. Third place, Kevin Sams with 76 and 3/4. Congrats to those guys. All right. Going on from there, we had the All-American Kayak Series. I'm pretty sure this was in conjunction with the Iowa event. I'm trying to find if that's true. But, hold on, we lost it. It just crashed on me. Go figure. There it is. Got it back up. They had 54 anglers. First place for that one was, again, Josiah Meter with 90 and a half. Second place was Mike DeBruyne with 89 and a quarter. Really close there. Third place, Ty Steinkooler with 88 and a half. Moving on from there, we wish you were here, Dan. The Iron City kayak anglers down there in his area were on Lay Lake, which he let me know is his least favorite lake down there. And he absolutely can't stand it, but now he has to love it because Dan pulled out a big win, 3 fish limit down there. He had 55 inches anchored with a big 20-inch largemouth. Second place was John Perez with 49 and a half. So Dan put a big lead on him. And third place, Mr. Coley McGowan with 48 and a half. So congrats to those guys. Big congrats to Mr. Dan. Wish you were here, buddy. I wanted to hear about this one. Next up, Georgia Kayak Fishing League. They were in the social circle area. They had 34 anglers. First place, Greg Murphy with 83 and a quarter. Second place, Randy Zhang with 81 and a half. Third place, Pao Yi Tao with 81. If I ruined that name, I'm so sorry. I tried. Moving on, Oklahoma kayak anglers were on Lake Yucca, maybe? I ain't got the knowledge to say that one right. First place, Kong Zhang with 92 inches. Second place, Jason Ray with 90 and a half. Third place, Avery Metcalf with 89. So some really good limits coming out of Oklahoma right now. That's killer. Next up, we had a charity event. The Prayers for Kaylee Foundation doing the Casting for Kaylee Kayak Tournament. They were on Lake Gunnersville. They had 32 anglers. Randall Wallace, the local hammer, taking it out again with 90 and a half. You just can't beat him on that lake right now. Second place, another great Gunnersville angler, Brandon Watson with 85. So Randall, again, put a few inches to secure that lead. And third place, John Bubba Jones. Congrats, Bubba. I guarantee you and Randall were probably fishing close enough to spit in each other's boat like normal. Next up was the Cats event it was a statewide event in Texas, and it's the event, if you listen to or look at KBN or any of our kayak social media, there's been some uproar about this one with some of the judging and stuff like that. But first place was Derek Taylor with 103 and a half inches. Second place was Robert Adcock with 97 and 3/4, and third place Tyler Howell with 97 and a half. So second and third were really close. Just a few more folks. East Texas Kayak Fishing was in Chandler, Texas. I'm trying to see, it was on Palestine. First place Matt Frentress with 97 and a half. Second place Chad Dagley with 91 and 3/4. Third place John Mooney with 91. Moving on, Midwest Kayak Bass Club was on the Madison Chain out there in Wisconsin. They had 38 anglers. First place, Mr. Yang, I can't even begin to pronounce your first name, Bubba. I'm so sorry. 82 inches, just barely easing out second with Jordan Hopner with 81 1/4, and third place, Peter Wellsmith with 80 inches. Kayak fishing Utah Bass Tour. So they were in Hiram, Utah. They had 54 anglers. First place, Cody Henley with 84 1/4. Second place, John McLaren with 74 3/4. Third place, Rob Allen with 73 1/2. And last but not least, the American Bass Kayak Series statewide in California. 34 anglers. First place, Jonathan DeMonet with 104 1/4. Really nice fish on that one. Go check that one out. Second place, Brian Lepke with 99 3/4. Third place, Christian Mendoza with 92 1/2. So a lot of tournaments. We're seeing way more than ever this time of the year, and with the explosion of kayak fishing. So that's all we got. Thanks everybody for sticking with us. Kind of different just kicking it with one host, but I took care of it. Hope you all enjoyed it. Everybody stay safe and, enjoy yourself out on the water. It's a great time of year to be fishing. We'll see you next week. Good night.
Thanks for tuning in to another killer episode on Paddle and Fin. Don't forget to go check out our website at paddle_and_fin.com. Don't forget to check out the YouTube channel at Paddle and Fin. If you got a question, comment, want to hear from a future guest on a future episode, feel free to email us at paddle_and_fin@gmail.com. Don't forget to follow us on social media at Paddle and Fin on Facebook and Instagram. Shout out to our show supporters, Angler. The Angler button and app just makes for a better time on the water and creates a virtual logbook for every fishing outing out on the water. Shout out to Rocktown Adventures, located in northern Illinois, for all your kayaking, camping, and hiking needs. Shout out to Jig Masters Jigs. When in doubt, get the jig out. Go to jigmasters.com